The following is a GoPowercat.com production.
Welcome to the Insiders, the GoPowercat gang here. Fitz and Gills, who's got his mic muted, which I hope is a trend that holds up throughout this podcast. Brien Hanley, Cole Carmody, and we're joined by my friend Katie Maher from WIBW. Thank you, Katie. We got you for a while.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And Lilo, we're here.
And Lilo is here too. So, I mean, if you watch any of our content, you're used to the occasional dog bark or the dog showing up on camera. They're usually big poodles. And now we have this little Lilo who has a lot of opinions and sounds a lot like Ryan Gilbert.
I agree.
Kind of yappy.
Kind of looks like him too with the hair sticking up today, Gills.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Nope.
Yeah.
Katie, thanks for doing this. You got to bail early at some point tonight because you're working. You got to host the news or do the sports. So let's get started here so we get the most of it. Big B, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, my man?
I'm all right. A little bit tired, a little bit confused today. I'm having an elderly day. Forgot to put up your insiders. Forgot to do some other things. I'm a mess. Ryan Gilbert isn't doing a good job keeping track of me.
Come on, Gilbert. Do your job.
Yeah.
It's always my fault, you know?
I know. That's the beauty of having you. Cole, I'm going to be honest here. I haven't had a chance to listen to your post-game podcast. So have at it. What'd you think of Saturday and the Cats Saturday in New Orleans?
Well, immediately after the game, I really didn't know what to think. And that's pretty horrible considering we were live on YouTube with an audience, I think, at one point of 1,500 people. I mean, like, seriously, it was one of those head-scratching moments. And I really think that my perspective was a lot different than your and Gills's and I'm interested to hear what your guys' opinion on it, because watching it on TV, I honestly felt like K-State was never completely out of the game and they always had a chance to win. Now, I think everyone can acknowledge that they did not play very well, but it just kind of felt like one of those things where you need to find a way to win the game and move on. And comparing it to basketball, you know, very similar to Jerome Tang's teams in overtime with some of those subpar teams earlier in the non-conference this season where, you know what, you probably shouldn't be in this position, but here you are and you have to make the most of it. And so that was kind of my immediate reaction was, wow, that was a really fun game. Regardless of the opponent, that's going to be a game that we think back on as, thank goodness they won that game. And so that was kind of my immediate reaction. But listening to the players after the game, listening to Kleiman and kind of just sitting back and thinking on it, my opinion has changed. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, to answer your question, Fitz, like just relief. Like that was the biggest thing was they won.
Big B, that's what counts at the end of the day is the W. But still, some alarming signs from this team. Slow starts on offense, and now you add in horrific secondary breakdowns, which really were strange.
Yeah.
They got to get it. They got to get going, man. It's now time.
Yeah, it's time to figure it out. Look, winning the game was fine, and I said it with Cole after the game was over on the live podcast. I just said, look, they played bad. And as much as we want to try to sugarcoat that, there's really no reason to do that. They got away with the win. And you know what? Good teams do that from time to time. Yep. They find ways to win games that they have no business winning. And I have no qualms. K-State had no business winning this game, but they did. And that's okay. So it's a good thing, but they got to fix some stuff. They just do. The slow starts on offense can't have it. The secondary breakdowns are even worse. And I was telling Cole, it just looked like some of the time they're in man coverage and a guy just says, you know what? I don't want to run all the way across the field. I'm gonna play zone on this one. And guys are running free. It was crazy. It was just stuff that you just don't see.
Yep. It was weird. Katie, give me your thoughts on this Kansas State football team.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Cole said. I never really felt like they were out of it, even when they were down 14-3 and 20-10 at halftime. You always have confidence, I think, that this K-State team will be competitive in the second half when they enter halftime down. But as you were saying, it was an ugly win. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Yes, it was a win, but it wasn't pretty in the slightest bit. You know, they keep saying that they've got this talent in the receiving core and they're going to start throwing it down the field more. I really hope it's just they're not trying to expose some of that game plan just yet because they haven't entered Big 12 play yet. I hope this was just a case of it's the second non-conference game and we're not going to show everything we can do if we don't have to. The defense won it for them in the second half. The offense, I feel like it got a lot of hype going into the season, and we haven't really seen it live up to that yet. And I'm really hoping that against Arizona this week they can, because they'll have to.
Good point. Ryan Gilbert, you've had roughly 48 hours to absorb what happened, what we saw in person. Give me your thoughts now.
Yeah, with what Katie said about maybe hiding the playbook, I'm okay with that. If you go out on the first drive and you score an easy touchdown in Tulane, if Darian Mensah didn't play as good as he did, I mean, it was pretty obvious, though, guys, like after the second series, that was going to be a dogfight. Obviously, it wasn't an intimidating atmosphere or anything like that, Fitz, but I know I wrote about this. Fitz, you talked about this in your post-game talk. Like, K-State just didn't come out with the pep in its step that you need to, whether you're playing Alabama or if you're playing UT Martin, it doesn't matter. You know, K-State didn't seem to be locked in, and K-State's players, coaches were acknowledging that. Kleiman mentioned in the post-game press conference that, you know, he didn't believe his team had the best practice, and that kind of probably bled into maybe that poor start to Tulane. So, you know, if K-State had played well against UT Martin, I would be okay with what happened down in New Orleans, but that's back-to-back weeks where K-State's come out of the gate and, you know, struggled immensely, right? DJ Giddens and Avery Johnson on that first drive against Tulane, guys, whoever's fault it was, doesn't matter. They were not on the same page. So if this was just more, if it felt like a fluky game, I'd be, you know, much more okay with it. But this is back-to-back games now where K-State's come out and just not played well early on. Obviously, good teams can find ways to win games. K-State was very resilient in this game. Give credit to the Cats for that. But it's back-to-back games where K-State struggled.
Big B, how concerning?
I don't know if it's super concerning just yet. Like I said, I still believe that we have only seen 25 to 35% of the offensive playbook. So I'm of that understanding. Just by watching it, you can see some of the route concepts and all that kind of stuff. They're just basic, you know, of what we're doing right now. But like we mentioned, at some point, when are you going to do that? You know, Katie's right. She's talking about, well, we're not in conference play yet. Well, technically we're about to be, even though Arizona, it's a non-conference game. I mean, they're a conference opponent, and they can really play. So at some point, you know, we've got to see all this stuff. Look, teams are going to scout you anyway. And what, you hiding one play in a playbook? Okay, fine. I get that. You don't want to show everybody one play. But good teams are going to prepare for you and prepare for everything that you do anyway, or what you might do. So at some point, you got to put this stuff in a game and not just in practice.
Yep. Cole, something we really haven't discussed much generally in the media, I haven't, is I thought the offensive line was pretty mediocre. That's a concern for me. They were bailed out by the fact they have an incredibly mobile quarterback, Avery Johnson, who avoided pressure a couple times and rolled out and made completions. The line's got to be better, and it looks like they might be down Hadley Panzer and Carver Willis for this game on Friday night, unless they heal up this week. They both were banged up pretty good, and they might have to go to backups. This is a problem.
It is, but it's also all relative. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it, right? And I think Kansas State still can be very, very good on offense, and I think the offensive line can be really good. And Fitz, let's just call it how it is. I mean, do you want to play an injured Hadley Panzer, or do you want to play a full strength Andrew Langang? Like, at what point is the net return okay? A healthy Andrew Langang is better than a hurt Hadley Panzer. And I think that K-State has some depth there to where, quite honestly, we need to see what John Pastore is made of. We need to see what Andrew Langang is made of, because they are going to depend on these guys throughout the season. Injuries are a part of the game. Look at Carver Willis, for example, last year, Fitz. This was a guy who stepped in for Christian Duffy and was not very good at the beginning of the season. However, However, he got to the point where he was one of the better guys on that offensive line by the end of the year. And I'm not putting it past Pastore. I'm definitely not putting it past Langang to do that exact same thing. And yes, it's a point of concern, but maybe not of concern, maybe more of just conversation at this point. You want to talk about a point of concern at the offensive line, all you had to do was flip over and watch Colorado and Nebraska on Saturday. I feel like every time I get on this podcast, the name Colorado has to be brought up. But again, it's all relative. Avery Johnson is not sitting back there talking to the media, asking how many times Darian Mensah got hit in the post-game press conference. I mean, let's just call it how it is, right? This Kansas State offensive line, were they very good? No, they weren't. Did they make the blocks when they had to? Yes, they did. Do they have depth that can still help K-State win and the average fan not even notice them? The answer to that question is yes.
So, Katie, I went to today's press conference with Chris Kleiman and Avery Johnson and other players, armed with a few questions. I had questions. Fans were asking me questions, so I asked about Dylan Edwards and Avery and some other things. But I wasn't the bad guy. You were. Congratulations. Tell everyone what you asked that got under Kleiman's skin.
I started it by saying, I know you have no control over this, coach, but just wanted to gather his overall thoughts on college football in general being played on Friday nights. I cover high school teams as well. I've heard from a lot of coaches how they feel about it. Several area high schools near K-State have had to move their home openers. And with both KU and K-State having home games on the same night on a Friday night, I understand they're by different networks, but I don't know who in the scheduling realm of college football looked at that and said, this is a good idea. Because that does harp on high school when it's both. So that's why I felt like it was a relevant thing. So I kind of just wanted to hear coach's thoughts on it. I think he feels a different type of way because now he gets to go watch his kid play college ball on Saturday, which is
that was really funny. He brought that up that he can go watch Kansas Wesleyan play on Saturday, so he's happy. But overall, he's right, and I'm sure K-State's hearing about it. Playing Friday night football is bad, and I agree. I wish they didn't have to do this, but when you're in the position of the Big 12, Ryan Gilbert, you need to find whatever windows you have available, and because what's happening on Friday, KU and K-State are on Fox and ESPN. And I mean, that can't be overlooked because that's not going to happen a whole lot this season when we get into the heart of, conference play. They had to go to Friday night. They got great windows. They should have decent audiences. But man, it does suck that Friday night football is here, although I will also enjoy watching college football all day Saturday without a care in the world.
It's all about Kleiman's son. Like, I think he's behind all of this just so we can get to go see him play at Kansas Wesleyan on Saturday. That's my take.
He said he had no control. Maybe he lied.
Yep.
We need to do some investigating, Katie, on this, don't we?
I hat on.
Great question at the press conference because there's a lot that you can actually dig into this, and I know we've done this, especially in the summertime when we have absolutely nothing to talk about on the podcast. But now that this is actually here, I mean, this really hurts K-State recruiting. I mean, when you have 6 home games in a season, right, already are slim on home games. Now you only have 5 home Saturdays. Like that hurts recruiting because now you're not going to have any single high school recruit on campus. I mean, maybe there's a few kids who play on Thursday night. The local schools, like you mentioned, Katie, I know Junction City, Lawrence High School, and Manhattan have moved their games. But so maybe you get a few kids from there, but how many of those kids are actually guys that they're looking at? Maybe not as many. So, I mean, I do wonder if you ask the people inside of that building, would you rather play on national TV? I put that in air quotes because really every single time K-State plays, anybody can watch it all across the country. If they have the ESPN app or ESPN Plus, that's national TV. So, I mean, and maybe I'm just biased because I'm not going to be able to go. But I think that on a Saturday on national TV, in air quotes once again for those listening on the podcast, would be better than a Friday night. But, again, I have no say either. So.
I agree, man. Look, it's sad that it's come to this, but if you're the Big 12, you got to take advantage of whatever leverage you can. And K-State being on Fox, not a cable, network like ESPN or FS1. They're on Fox, and that's huge. And that's not going to happen a whole lot this season. It might if K-State gets really rolling, but we'll see. We'll see what the ratings are too, because this could be a wildly entertaining game, Big B.
Yeah, I think it will be. I like Arizona. I've said it several times. They got the best quarterback wide receiver tandem in the entire country, not just the Big 12. I think it's a big deal being on Friday. I'm going the other way with it. I think it's an opportunity. It's not necessarily that I like it because it's taken away from high school. Look, I grew up on high school football. My father was a high school football coach. I used to love eating those soggy hot dogs and watered down nachos. I mean, it is what it is. I thought it was great. I still think it's great. Me and my wife still go to high school football games, and we don't even have kids. But having said all of that, it's an opportunity for K-State. I mean, we can't complain about everything. Yeah. We're literally going to be on national TV. If you want to watch football on a national television network, you have to watch Kansas State. How is that bad? In no realm is that a bad thing. So just keep that in mind. I know. And look, I get it. It might hurt the town. I don't think it hurts recruiting at all because it is what it is. I mean, but just keep it all in perspective. On a national stage, Kansas State is on it. How many times does that even happen?
Yep.
Keep in mind, you've got Texas and Michigan playing last week. Kansas State's, of course, on ESPN, but that's not the game to watch when you're playing on a Friday night. If you're a college football fan, doesn't matter what team you root for. If you're a sports bettor, right, you're gonna have to bet on the game just to keep interested, right? But yeah, so keep in mind that it's the lone game on.
Okay, our friend Cornelio comes in with the super chat. If you want to move to the front of the line, you can click the little $sign down there on YouTube and offer your comment.
Give Fitz
wants
your
to
money.
know if we're going to see a little option here between Avery and Dylan. I'd love it. I'd love to see all three along with DJ Giddens on the field together. I think it could be really effective. I've been told it's in the playbook. Cole, will we see it?
You have to. I mean, at this point, you have to. I think that they might have taken a step back. And guys, let's just call it how it is. I mean, Kansas State has not done the best job in the world at rotating running backs in and out the past few seasons. I mean, I think everyone inside of that building will tell you they want to play more running backs. I don't think that's a secret. That's something that, quite honestly, Brian Anderson hasn't had to do. He's had Deuce Vaughn. Then he had DJ Giddens. Well, he also had Trayshawn Ward, who is showing he's a pretty good running back at Boston College. And now he has Dylan Edwards, who's already shown he's one of the most electrifying playmakers in all of college football the first two games of the season. So I think you have to see the triple option. You have to see some sort of RPO with Dylan and DJ in the game. And I think they sat back and they watched the film and said, okay, this guy's pretty good. He's pretty electric, and we have to have him on the field, if to nothing else, to make other teams prepare for him. Because when he comes onto the field, you know what? Other teams think he's getting the ball. And if other teams think he's getting the ball, that means they're going to leave somebody else unguarded, or somebody else is not going to be guarded as tough. So, yeah, I really think that they need to find a way to get both of those guys on the field at the same time. If not 75% of the time, where both of them are out there at the same time, go with two running backs, line Dylan up in the slot, find a way to make Dylan Edwards a starter on your team.
I agree. Gills, you could tell we were really confused in the press box because Dylan Edwards was virtually invisible in the first half. They threw a little pass to him, an ill-conceived play. Big B, is that play ever going to work? I don't understand that play at all. It never worked in this game. Nope. But they got him in the second half, and he produced some big results, and then they took him out, and K-State had to kick a field goal because the drive stopped. It was maddening.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, like we said, you got to start opening some stuff up. He's too good not to get the football, too good to not be involved. Even if he doesn't get the football, just to be a decoy and to be involved. And maybe we're going to see a lot of that this week. I know a lot of people, Cole, you mentioned it about the triple option. I'm not even that big on trying to run triple option. Just put the man on the football field. and just leave him out there. Even if you line him up in the slot or 2 backs in the backfield at the same time, do something. We're supposed to have an innovative offense. I think we'll see a lot of that this week. I just haven't been the person that's been hung up on, well, we're not seeing a bunch of offense. I get it. I know why they're doing it, but this is the week, people. This literally is the week. We don't see it this week, we'll have a gripe.
Yeah.
Agree. Gills?
Yeah, Fitz, our initial reaction was like, is Dylan Edwards in the doghouse? Like, why is he not on the field? And it was good for Kleiman on Monday to acknowledge the fact that they need to get Edwards more touches. But his reasoning for not getting Edwards, his usage being as high as we would probably like it to be, was that K-State hasn't been on the field enough offensively. Well, that's fine if you want to get DJ. If you want to feed DJ Giddens all you want and get him his carries, get him his touches, that's great, because I'm not trying to talk down upon DJ at all. He's a great running back. We can all agree on that. But at least fine. So the usage maybe doesn't necessarily. I can back that in terms of the usage, but having him on the field, I just don't see any excuse for Edwards not being on the field, because Fitz, we saw. He was, in our post-game interview with him, he was great. He was complimentary of DJ Giddens. His family, him and Avery Johnson's family, both were celebrating, dancing after the game. Yep. And so get him on the field. He's not in the doghouse. It doesn't seem like it's anything like that. Get him on the field, like you guys have mentioned. Put him out in the slot. Get him on the field at the same time with DJ. So that way you can still get DJ Giddens his touches, but the defense is going to have to worry about Dylan Edwards, because K-State, a tendency that this team has – I think an average coach in college football can pick up on this. When Dylan Edwards is getting into games, when he's on the field, he is getting the football. That's going to be easy to pick up on. So if you have, Edwards and Giddens on the field at the same time, of course, the decoy is there, the option, all the different sorts of stuff you can do. So I'm not necessarily even asking for Dylan Edwards to get a bunch of carries and touches. Get him on the field is the biggest thing for me in my eyes.
I agree.
Go
ahead, Cole.
I just I'd be curious to go back into the game film and see when Dylan Edwards comes into the game, because I just have this strange feeling that whenever he comes into the game, there's also 2 tight ends. And that really limits what you can do when Dylan Edwards is in the game, if he is in with DJ and there's 2 tight ends. Because if he comes into the game, he's essentially either lined up as a receiver or he's lined up as a running back. You disagree with me, Big B?
Yeah, there's no way they're going to have 2 tight ends and those guys being a running back in the backfield at the same time. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say there's no way, but what are you doing? You're going to have one guy be a fullback or something like that? That would be defeating the purpose.
Well, I just mean in terms of you have a tight end lined up in the slot and a tight end down with two backs in the backfield. I'd have to go back in and look, but it sure feels like we've seen Will Swanson, Garrett Oakley, and DJ and Dylan in the game at the same time, because they want to run the ball. I mean, that's what they want to do when both of those guys are in the game at the same time. Again, I don't know off the top of my head, but there needs to be other ways of getting Dylan involved to where you can have that personnel in, but line him up in the slot. So instead of a running back, he's essentially a receiver, which changes your personnel. We're getting way into the weeds right now, but my football brain is running a million miles an hour. And I think it's interesting because there's just so many different things that you can do with Dylan Edwards.
Okay, let me shift gears here. Katie, a little secret about you. You are a children of the Terrapins.
I am.
You're one of those children of the Terrapins. But you've been in Kansas now for 2 years?
Yes.
So you've gotten pretty familiar with things.
Mm-hmm.
Avery Johnson, Dylan Edwards, and DJ Giddens, who's from your viewing area in Junction City, all Kansas kids. As a Kansan, that's remarkable. What are your thoughts as more of an outsider?
Absolutely. I think it speaks to just how good K-State is at in-state recruiting. And, some of these guys that they recruit, I mean, we have a few guys from our viewing area who just graduated high school last year, and they're walking on or they're redshirting this year at K-State. Caden Massey, Holden Bass, just to name a few. They're all guys who see what K-State can do, even with guys who might not be getting a bunch of other Power 4 offers. It's all about, once they get them in the program, what they can turn them into. I think a prime example is the offensive line. There are starters on there who have just been waiting their turn for years, and a lot of them are Kansas kids. But it definitely speaks to how much K-State controls the in-state football recruiting here. I mean, the first game, it was like, 17 guys made substantial plays that were all from Kansas, both on offense and defense. Like, that's nuts. I mean, Junction City, the people of Junction City love DJ Giddens. We love when he succeeds. I'm a big supporter of calling DJ Giddens one of the best running backs in the country. Can't believe he wasn't included on that Big 12 graphic. Still mad about that. But no one does it like K-State with in-state recruiting for football. It's been made very clear to me since I've been here.
Big B, this kid wasn't recruited hardly at all. I mean, he was kind of an afterthought. People didn't even really understand why K-State signed him. Now, he was a good running back in high school, but this won't translate. Holy cow, I did my daily delivery for tomorrow already on DJ, and Ryan Lackey from Sports Information, who's in charge of football, shared this. DJ Giddens has the second highest per rush average in K-State history behind Darren Sproles. This kid is productive. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's productive. He's hard-nosed. I mean, and I don't know. I'd say the quiet part out loud, he's an NFL running back, and I don't know if a lot of people necessarily want to say that or give him the credit because he doesn't talk a lot. Guy's an NFL running back. He's got the size, he's got the speed, and he's evolved, Fitz. You remember him running the football as a freshman, running straight up, exposing his chest, didn't have a whole lot of wiggle. You wouldn't even recognize him now compared to what he looked like as a freshman. So he's a totally different guy. Very, very good. He's from Kansas. Look, I'm biased because obviously I'm not from Kansas. So to me, just get whoever the best football players you can get. But you know what? You have to recruit from your campus out. That's how it always works, and you get the best players that you can possibly get. So I love it. I love that he's from Kansas. I love that a lot of kids are from Kansas. It's a good deal. But DJ is just one of those guys. Like I said, it's a good story. In my opinion, it's not even a good story. I think it's a great story, Katie, that he's from Junction City, quiet kid, not really highly recruited by anybody, comes in. Literally, if you saw him as a freshman, people are like, yeah, this guy's not going to work out here. Yeah, he runs hard, but he doesn't even know how to be a running back. Well, he knows how to be a running back now. He's very, very good.
I agree. And he's now making himself a receiver. Gills, you were in on the interview of him after the game. He's not big with talking, but he's kind of really confident in everything he does, whether it's on the field or off the field. And I mean, when you have players the status of Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards going, yeah, DJ's really good. He's special. They just love him in that locker room because he just takes care of business and sets the tone.
Yeah. I mean, Big B, you mentioned it. Dylan Edwards said post-game after the Tulane game that, he's excited I'm paraphrasing here, but he's excited for DJ Giddens to be playing on Sundays in the future. And so, but I mean, I think probably one of the biggest things with DJ, like we're talking about here, is he just got overlooked, probably isn't the right word with Deuce Vaughn, but I think how special Deuce Vaughn was, I think all of us probably viewed DJ as probably just a supporting piece, for lack of a better term there. And so the expectation when you have a guy like Vaughn, none of us expected him to be doing what he's doing. And obviously last year, kind of splitting time with Trayshawn Ward, okay, is he ready for this here as what we've really seen him be, the bell cow back? He's absolutely lived up to that, as Edwards hasn't been on the field maybe as much as we would have thought, but yeah, he's awesome. I put this in our group text with Wally. I know I texted you, Big B, about this, like coming up with an NFL comp for DJ Giddens, and it's tough. I know Big B said like Joe Mixon, but I see some people in the comments, Le'Veon Bell, Cole, you mentioned that too. So yeah, I mean, if Big B, a former, K-State offensive lineman, is saying he's got NFL potential, it's got to be true, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's in question. Look, we love Deuce Vaughn, and especially what he did at Kansas State is almost second to none. But DJ Giddens will be a better professional running back than Deuce Vaughn. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He will be a better running back, in the National Football League than Deuce Vaughn. And again, that's taking nothing away from Deuce Vaughn, but we see it time to time. Heck, we talk about Joe Mixon. Samaje Perine at Oklahoma was the main guy while they were both at Oklahoma. Joe Mixon has had a wildly better career in the National Football League, and I think this will be the same thing with DJ.
The thing about DJ, guys, and I the thing that summarizes him and his personality to a T happened on Saturday. And I don't know if you guys at the game caught this or not, but there was a play, I want to say it was a 3rd and short, maybe it was a 4th down, where he caught a pass and he got upfield. And instead of going out of bounds, there was a defender who was there to make the tackle. And DJ could have easily stepped out of bounds. It would have been the same yardage. But he tucked his shoulder and he ran over this defender. And instead of getting up and talking to him, which is what 99% of every single athlete who plays a great game of football from high school to the NFL would have done, because he trucked him, he had a right to get up and say something. Instead of doing that, he just handed the ball. He got up, handed the ball to the official, and ran back to the huddle. Not because he didn't even have any kind of flair. It was just, oh, you're in my way. So, I wanted to run you over. You're in my way. I don't know. Sorry. And no emotion, handing the ball to the official, running back to the huddle like it was nothing. And all his teammates, I'm sure, were going crazy on the sideline, but that's just what DJ does, man.
I find that more demoralizing than actually having trash spoken. It's like, you didn't even matter to me. You were just in my way.
Yep.
Katie, you got to run here pretty quickly. But before the football season started, I elected to step away from the drive. You and your sidekick Vince are now doing the drive. Give me an update on that and promote that show a little bit.
Well, I think it's going pretty good so far. We still keep all the same intangibles that Fitz and company kept for so many years. I've been taking the KU side of things for the first few weeks, just because it seems I've been covering their games more often. Hoping to be able to talk some more K-State, though, of course, you've still been going back and forth and making my comments and stuff. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. We're incorporating some post-game sound bites from the coach, so you don't just have to hear us talk the whole time. You also get to hear from the coaches and the players and everything, and you get to hear me make my picks for the week of who to take in spreads and who's going to cover. I may have gone 0-3 week 1, but I went 2-1 this past week. So,
well, Michael Swain was on an 0 run a little bit last year, where he just kept offering. And then you start trying to catch up, and you make it worse.
Yeah.
So, Katie, appreciate you joining us. Any final thoughts?
I do have a funny note on the subject of DJ Giddens that Cole was just talking about. When he scores a touchdown, if you haven't noticed this already, I love watching his reaction to scoring touchdowns, because he's just like straight face, like, I just scored a touchdown. That's cool. I'm going to give the ball back and walk back to the sideline. And all his teammates are like running over to him, and they're all jumping on him, and they're trying to hype him up. And he's like, I got to go back to the sideline.
My way. I got people to truck.
Yep.
Exactly. But yeah, excited to see how K-State and Arizona do this week. I think it's going to be a really, really, really good game. I'm mad I will be in Kansas City during it, but I'm still going to watch on YouTube TV on my phone. Don't tell me.
Okay. Katie, yeah, we won't tell anyone. Katie, thank you very much. Make sure you check her out on WIBW News, and of course the drive after the late news on Sunday alongside Vince. Go get to work. Lilo, thank you for making an appearance. We're a dog-friendly podcast all the time here with GoPowercat. Thank you, my dear.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Okay, boys. Appreciate Katie joining us. Okay, let's look forward to Arizona. Big B, put the magnitude of this game in perspective.
I think it's huge. Like I said, I'm leaning into the national TV appearance, and I think all K-Staters should too. We can disagree; it's past that time. The game's going to be played, so it's time to lean into it. So it's a national game. This is our opportunity to impress people, because I think the nation believes that Arizona is good. I believe the nation thinks that Arizona's offense can score on anybody. Now, I don't know about their defense, but I believe that's what the nation thinks. Well, if they do, then this is K-State's opportunity to shut all that down and say, well, hold on. If their offense is really good, well, we're shutting this offense down. So this is the opportunity, and you don't get a ton of these, man. You just don't, to impress people. And maybe you think, well, if we just go out and win the games, that's all that matters. No, it's not all that matters. You know, styles points have always mattered in college football. They always have. They don't matter in pro football, but in college football, style points always matter. This is an opportunity. And look, I'm not going out here saying K-State's going to blow them out or anything. I'm just saying they have an opportunity to put their best foot forward and show the nation, you know what? Maybe we need to pay attention a little bit more to K-State.
Gills, it's going to be an interesting thing. I really don't know how many K-Staters will opt out for Friday night football, high school football. I would assume it's going to be packed. I'm hearing a lot of Arizona fans are making the trip, which is kind of cool. But this is a cool thing. You know, now that it's happening and you really can't change it, I think it's going to be kind of fun to have a Friday night game at the Bill, a big game, and it's a conference opponent, even if it's a non-conference game.
One thing to keep in mind, not to take away from how big of a game this is the first real true test of the season for the Cats, but K-State can still lose this and it doesn't have any impact on the standings, right? So college football playoff wise, absolutely that would be a blow. But, you know, the controlling of your own destiny is still there. So, sure, it's a big game, without a doubt. You know, national audience, big-time opponent, under the lights, prime time, all that's there. But I don't know if this was a conference game, this would be much more important. So, you know, if K-State were to lose this game, if they look the exact same they have the last 2 weeks, or they lose on a last-second field goal in a shootout, I don't know if my level of concern would be that much different. So huge game, yes, but keep in mind though, this one still has, you know, this would be, if they were to lose it, it'd be like losing to Tulane in 2022, where K-State goes off and wins the Big 12 title. So big game, yes, but remember in the standings there.
Cole, you got to defend the fort.
You do.
If you want to be an elite team, if you want to be the Big 12 power, that's got to be a pit where other teams come in and lose.
I agree with that. You know, I had said in the post-game podcast, and our good friend Danger Cat on Wabash Station kind of called me out a little bit, which is probably nothing new, but that's okay. I had said something along the lines of, oh, you're playing with house money, you might want to reevaluate that take. So, you know, I took what Danger Cat said to heart, and I agree, right? Like, it's a home game. You need to win. That's what it is. It's a home game. If you want to be the number one team in the Big 12, you need to win this game. It doesn't matter who you play. You need to be able to win games at home. Teams that protect their home field typically have really good seasons. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Everyone thought Texas A&M was going to be pretty good, and then they lost to Notre Dame, who then turned around and lost to Northern Illinois, and now we all think Texas A&M isn't very good. And so they lost that game at home. I think K-State wins this game, guys, and I know that we'll have plenty of time to dissect it. But just looking at Arizona, they are a team that on paper you look at and you go, wow, because McMillan put up all those yards in week 1 against New Mexico. But guys, if you go back and you watch their game against Northern Arizona, we thought that K-State's performance was underwhelming against UT Martin. I mean, this was embarrassing. It was ugly. It was disgusting. And don't give me this crap of, oh, they're looking forward to K-State. No, that they weren't. They played horrible. And Northern Arizona is not nearly as good as UT Martin. And so I don't know, guys. Like, I think that Arizona could have an amazing game and come in and beat K-State, or they could lay a complete egg and K-State could win by, double digits. And quite honestly, if we're just looking at the two teams, who's played better this year, it's K-State. And that's saying a lot, because K-State has not started off super hot, but they have started off the season better than Arizona, because for as good as Arizona's offense was against New Mexico, that defense was hot garbage. And they were bad against Northern Arizona too. And so K-State has an opportunity here to put up a lot of points and to really get right on offense, because, I think that defense at Arizona, it's not going to be as good as the defense for Tulane was.
Agreed.
It speaks volumes, man. Real quick with the betting line. I know we've got certainly time throughout the week to touch on this, but K-State being favored by a whole touchdown, Cole, backs up the point of how poor Arizona's defense played in week 1 against New Mexico, and then the offense last week against Northern Arizona. K-State struggled without a doubt, but to still be favored by a touchdown after the mishaps that we've seen covering Kansas State, imagine how bad it's been watching Arizona the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep. Their fans are a little stressed. Big B, before I give you a question, here's a little promotion. This is how it works working for me. You have an idea, you throw the idea out on the table, and if I like it, I say, let's try it. And that's exactly what we did on Saturday. Cole said, hey, let's do a post-game podcast live. And I'm like, well, let's do it. So you and Cole did it. A lot of people showed up, probably because the game stirred a little discussion, but it was really cool. So we're backing up. Yeah, they're back at home on Friday night, but you and Ryan Wallace, Big B, will be going live soon after the game to discuss it, which I think is pretty cool. And also, I want to point this out. We'll have the PowerCat preview podcast, the pregame podcast coming up, and I'll ask you this question on it. But boy, Fafita and McMillan are a dangerous pair. Maybe you said it, one of the best quarterback receiver combinations in college football, if not the best. That is concern number one with Friday night.
It has to be, from just what we've seen. You know, you can talk about K-State maybe not mixing up a bunch of stuff on the defensive side of the football as well, not mixing up coverages and all that kind of stuff. And I know what fans will say is, oh, man, they blitzed a ton. Yeah, but if you really take a deep dive in what K-State was doing, it was just normal blitzes. They just did it a lot. I go, it wasn't trying to confuse you or anything. They just brought a lot of people. And that's where the difference comes in. Well, they also didn't mix up coverages. They didn't try to disguise coverages. They're going to have to do all of that against Arizona, you know, and I suspect that we're going to see a different game plan. I also suspect we're going to see more of a 4-man line rushing, because I'm going to tell you what, if we're going to rush 3 guys and 2 guys get double teamed and the other guy can't get off a block, it's going to be a problem with Arizona. And it won't just be McMillan. Fafita can throw the football, people. He's very, very good. So it'll be a test for K-State. But having said that, I just believe I'm still sticking with it, guys. I'm not getting off of it. 35% maybe of what offense and defense and what K-State can do. That's all we've seen. So I think there's still a whole lot of meat left on that bone that we're going to take a big bite out of this weekend. I just believe that. I have to believe that, because to be quite honest, if that's not the case, K-State's not very good, and I don't believe that. I believe that we are very good.
Ryan Gilbert, as good as the Tulane quarterback was, and that's a talented young man, he's not a scrambler. He's a pocket passer. Noah Fafita is a scrambler. And if you flush him, you might cause yourself more harm than actually, you know, getting to him. He's gonna really be a problem for K-State, because if you don't contain him, he's going to run wild. And it's kind of similar to Avery Johnson. But it's going to be a different animal this week.
Glass half full approach. K-State's been going up against that, you know, in practice, obviously going up against Avery Johnson. And so, but yeah, credit to Joe Klanderman's defense, or I guess the game calling, the adjustments during that Tulane game to start bringing that pressure, because if Mensa had a clean pocket, he was going to pick apart K-State's defense and those secondary problems. That's guys, let's be real here. That's going to be the biggest thing to watch in this game. Can K-State, you know, towards the end of the game, certainly cleaned up some of those issues, but early on against Tulane, it was just mishap after mistake after blown coverage, and you know, guys were open, wide open. Any one of us could have made some of those throws. Not to take anything away from Mensa. So yeah, I mean, Arizona's it's going to be shoot. I just cursed. It's going to be I lost my train of thought here.
Let's go around here. Lord have mercy.
Oh my gosh.
I listened to too much of Big B's post-game Steelers live stream where he was dropping the S-bomb all stream. So it's Big B's fault. So,
yes, blame Big B.
Can I put a comment up here, Fitz?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so our friend Bracket Cat says Kleiman said they had to keep their eyes, whatever that means. Big B, this comment is interesting to me, because it tells me that to use to borrow an analogy from Hoosiers, the great line, "Don't get caught watching the paint dry." That's what was going on Saturday.
Exactly what was going on. People standing around watching and not doing their job. My dad used to say it all the time, taking pictures. When he watched me, Brian, stop taking pictures. What are you doing? And if you're not involved, you're just standing around watching. And that's exactly what this means. Guys weren't talking, weren't communicating, just standing around. Well, if you're going to do that against Arizona, it's going to be a long afternoon, or a long evening. I'm telling you. So that's what Coach Kleiman is talking about. Keep your eyes, keep your wits about you.
Yeah.
So
Don't be,
and trust your eyes too, Cole. He's also saying trust your eyes. You know, sometimes you get in your own head. I'm going to bring this comment up right here, and it kind of falls into that. Do you think the QB communication in the helmet might be contributing to offensive woes? Should they delete the speaker? First of all, I don't think so, because I would much rather listen to somebody tell me the play than looking over at the sidelines. You know, it just makes it easier because you can just repeat it. And if you didn't hear it or you need to hear it again, you kind of give them a whatever, and they say it to you again. So, which is much, much easier. But I respect the question, because it could be maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it does take some getting used to. Let's not kid ourselves. It takes some getting used to. I don't think that's what are some of the offensive woes, just for the simple fact we're just not running a whole lot of offense. So, you know, I think that contributes more to the offensive woes than anything. But, I'm ready to see what this team can really do when they're putting their full minds together and putting it all out there, I should say. Let's see what we can do.
And guys, too, if you've seen the Connor Stallions Netflix documentary, first of all, if you haven't watched that, definitely go watch it. But I don't want to delete the speaker, because there are teams out there who steal signals. That is part of the thing. That is literally somebody's job, is to be across the way and try and steal signals. And it happens, and it will continue to happen until teams just take signals away. And I think part of the reason why the NCAA instituted the helmet, or the headset to helmet communication, is because they knew, okay, well, now this is all out there in the media. This is something that's been going on. And I think doesn't really have much of a place in the game. Just like, same thing for baseball. You're stealing signs, probably doesn't have a place in the game. But yeah, I don't think necessarily that's why the offensive woes. I am curious to see, they say that it shuts off at 15 seconds, but how long is Matt Wells talking to Avery Johnson? Is he talking to him when he's in the huddle? Is he talking to him when he comes up to the line of scrimmage? I know as an athlete, it would be very difficult for me if I'm trying to read a defense and I have a coach in my ear telling me what to look at.
Yeah.
That could be very, very challenging. I would assume that they do not do that. But I'm sure there are some places out there that do that. And maybe that is contributing to the bad quarterback play that we've seen really throughout college football, because we haven't seen a lot of good quarterback play.
Well, most coaches are going to want to share a lot of information.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Editing your information is probably a challenge. Give them the play, tell them a quick thought, keep your eye on that safety or something, whatever it is that's key on that play, and get out of his head. As someone with voices in their head, it's hard to get used to. And unfortunately, one of the voices in my head is Ryan Gilbert's. I just hear it all the time. Gills, do we need a headset situation where you can be at home and you can tell me, hey, Fitz, don't forget to put up the podcast. You can just talk to me. I think it'd be good for us.
I think we should set like an over under on how many things maybe per week you say, hey, Gills, don't let me forget to do this. I think I would set it like 6.5, like maybe one a day. But to change subjects here real quick, when I blanked out and totally lost my train of thought, I remembered what I was going to say. Big B had mentioned, 35% or whatever of the playbook is what we've seen. And so that's certainly something that if you're a K-State fan, that's encouraging that against Arizona, if K-State can just give Avery Johnson the keys, let him play, let the offense do what it can do and live up to its potential, that would be awesome. My worry there, though, is the kinks that you have to work out, and especially a game like UT Martin, where K-State still played sloppy, even when it was running sort of its base offensive sets. Now, when you want to bring out these, gadget plays, I'm not saying trick plays, but when you really start to try to confuse Arizona, it's not going to be, the tiniest little things are going to matter. The minutia of every little play, some guys, split seconds can make or break that stuff. So, if K-State feels 100% confident with what it's done in practice with those plays, then fine. But those plays we haven't seen yet, K-State has not ran some of those plays in live action. So K-State has to play clean, has to play crisp, especially on those plays when it's quite literally going to, I'm assuming Matt Wells has had some wrinkles in the offense. It's going to be the first time that this team has ever ran a play like that, and that goes for the defense as well. You mentioned Big B, the coverages maybe weren't crazy. It was just a straight up blitz. So working those plays out, or I guess, that it's going to be the first time they've ran those plays in a live game. So I get it. I'm not going to disagree that it's optimistic to look at that, but on the flip side, K-State's got to execute those plays because they haven't ran them in the real game yet.
Yep. Agreed. Calico Willie, great question. And also I appreciate your avatar of you shredding a guitar. That's just awesome. Let's get to this point here. Robbie asks, is this game that will probably define the season? And then it's followed up right after that with Jor asking, definitely be confident this team can contend for the playoffs. If they win this game, I see this as another 8-9 win team if they lose. I kind of agree with him on that. I really do. I think this team, if they handle this game, win, but maybe even win comfortably or, not down to the last possession. Half of Big 12 games last year, games between Big 12 opponents were decided by one score, which is incredible. So if you can avoid that, how do you not feel confident that if you can win by, double digits? Cole, I think this game is enormous. I picked a different game as my linchpin game at the start of the season, and it was a mistake. West Virginia will be a big game, but this is it. This will set the tone for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's really important when you start looking at some of the other teams in the Big 12 and kind of how they're performing. And then you look at some of the other so-called contenders and maybe how they're performing and when they have to play those performing teams. Guys, like you look at K-State's schedule and every single home game are teams you want to play at home. There's nobody on this schedule right now that K-State has where you're like, ooh, they got to go there. That's going to be really tough. I still think Morgantown will be tough to win, but they'll be 7 or 8 point favorites. They're going to go to Colorado. They're going to be 7 or 8 point favorites.
At least. Yeah. And then suddenly Arizona State looks like a formidable opponent, but you get them at home. Oklahoma State, we all know, is going to be a formidable opponent. You get them at home, and then you get Arizona, who we all thought was going to be good, and we still think they're not bad. You get them at home too. And so if you win this game, I struggle to see where that letdown will come, because every single game that you feel like could come down to the wire or likely will come down to the wire is at home, where we just talked about, you got to protect your home field. And so if K-State can win this game, not only are they 3-0, but they're rolling and they're heading to Provo with a chance to be 4-0. And this season is just trending in an upward direction. And I think a lot of us who are optimistic about this team, all those struggles they've had the first 2 weeks of the season, as long as they win this game, to me, it goes completely out the window.
I don't know if I agree with that, but and here's the reason why. We just talked about how bad K-State played, and it didn't look good. If you're telling me if they win this game and they play that way again, we're all going to feel that this was the defining moment, I don't think we are. And that's the key. We have to go play well and win, but I don't think it's the defining moment because, again, we could beat Arizona, but if it doesn't look good, are we going to think that we're that good? Probably not. So I just think there's a difference to winning the game, and going out and playing well is going to mean a hell of a lot more, and obviously, and winning than just winning ugly. Because, look, we can look at the schedule and we can talk about what it is, but there's some teams on the schedule. Like we go to West Virginia, we're not winning ugly there. I mean, the game might be ugly, but if we play like we played against Tulane, we're going to get beat. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think it has to be the defining moment. I think it can be, Don't get me wrong. I think it can be, especially if we turn around what we've seen so far, because I don't really count Tennessee Martin. That just kind of is what it is. But if we can turn around the play and start playing better, then yeah, it can be. But even if we lost the game, which I don't think we're going to lose this game, but even if we did, then we're going to find out the resiliency of the team. And look, I love the locker room, and that's part of Kansas State right there is the locker room.
So, well, Fitz, before you, I mean, this poses a question, I think, for all of us. Can K-State win this game ugly? Because
yeah.
I don't.
They can.
You think they can?
Yeah, so because Arizona might be playing ugly too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. K-State can muck this game up. And some people, Cole, might say that how K-State needs to win is to muck this game up. Just make it a super physical football game. Keep the ball away from Arizona. Just whatever kind of ugly you can think of. There's a lot of people out there that think that's the way they have to win this game. True. You know, because you know how K-State doesn't get the respect that they should, never have, never will. It is what it is. We already know that. So they think that, they got to play ugly to go win. Well, okay. It might end up being that way.
That's a good point.
Gills, Coach Kleiman's now said twice that was a culture win. They had the culture that they were not going to lose that football game, that they believed in themselves. I think that's one of the X factors with this team is they truly do believe. There's a sense of really deep unity in that locker room. Plus, they've got some dudes that just can make the play. And the touchdown with Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens, that wasn't the play call. That was playing ball on the playground. You go here, but you don't go there. You go up the sideline, and it caught the opposition off guard. I felt like Tulane knew what K-State was running, to be honest. A lot of times I just felt like they knew exactly what was coming, and that wasn't a play called, so they didn't see that one coming. When you got guys that can just do that, you're going to win games.
But K-State just needs a convincing victory, right? And maybe it doesn't have to happen against Arizona if Arizona plays well, but K-State needs a victory in which it doesn't need to have, locker room speeches from the captains and that sorts of stuff where it starts slow. You need, and I'm not saying if you win ugly, if it just kind of turns into that game, that's fine. But K-State needs, and it doesn't have to happen against Arizona, but at some point here soon, a convincing win is needed. And also to piggyback off of what we're talking about with this game against Arizona, maybe being the defining moment of the season. Keep in mind, guys, Arizona hasn't played well. Arizona might have some real problems on defense. And so at this point in time, especially heading into the year, we thought this was going to be a huge game, but 4 or 5 weeks from now, guys, we could look back at this Arizona team and think they're garbage. You don't know what's going to happen in the Big 12. So it could be the defining game of the year, without a doubt. Don't get me wrong. At the same time, though, a lot can change quickly in the Big 12, especially with injuries. And it's very similar to Colorado. They've got a heck of a duo with wideout and quarterback at Arizona. But other than that, it doesn't appear, Big B, you could probably answer this better, but it doesn't appear that their roster from top to bottom is as strong as it needs to be.
Nope, not yet. Not yet. I did. Look, I like Arizona. I think they're a good football team. Their roster isn't. They're not. Personally, I don't think they're ready for the physicality of the Big 12.
Agreed.
That's what I personally believe. Now, they got the skill positions. They absolutely have that. And we'll find out. Now, they have run the ball pretty well, but who was it against, really? So let's talk about that. But I'm not sure that their roster right now is as good. But again, Fafita, McMillan, my opinion, best quarterback wide receiver combo in the entire nation. K-State fans get used to that. He'll have 100 yards receiving if they get it going, but that doesn't mean that they have to beat us. So they get 100 yards, we're probably doing well. If we keep them under 150, I can tell you that right now. K-State's doing well. They're doing well.
Yeah, because he could go for 300. That's how
right.
good he is. He's special. He really is. We appreciate everyone listening to the K-State Insiders this week. We're going to try to do this live every Monday night at 8 p.m. We will have some NFL collisions, some overlap. There's two losers got two members of this foursome that are Steelers fans. So if they're on Monday Night Football, they won't be here at 8 o'clock.
Kicking 6 field goals en route to a victory. Just amazing football. You talk about ugly. Oh my God.
That's great coaching. And if the Chiefs are ever on Monday Night Football, Cole and I will be busy. And so if the Chiefs and Steelers play on Monday Night Football, maybe we should do this show live while watching that game.
They actually play on Christmas on a Wednesday.
There we go.
I mean, I might be a little
ended right now. Steelers and Chiefs would play in the first round of the playoffs. Just saying.
Could it end after one game?
Yep.
That's why I keep you on here. I mean, that's a dynamite drop right there. That was information I had no idea about. That's terrific. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be back with the pregame podcast that'll drop, tomorrow at midnight, and which is like Tuesday, Wednesday. Midnight's very confusing. And then, of course, we'll have hold on. Tomorrow midnight's the regular podcast. Then we got the pregame podcast. Then we got the postgame podcast. And the Friday walkthrough is going to come, but it's going to actually drop on Thursday evening so that you have more time to watch it.
Why is it called the Friday walkthrough then?
It
makes no sense.
It's all about marketing. It's all about marketing, Gills. Thanks for watching, everyone.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.